Good morning, sunshine. How was your drug-induced coma? I hope it was relaxing. Sorry. I don't get to do this often, so I like to add a little humor to these procedures. I find it helps lighten the mood, especially when the recipient finds themselves strapped to a chair, with sensors all over their head. So let me explain what's going on. You have been chosen to work for one of the members of the council. Yes, that council. Those few who manage the human government known as the GCPS. Working for them is a great honor with a large number of responsibilities, but also an equally large number of benefits, trust me. But such an honor requires a person with the right mindset, the right way of thinking that would prevent them from second-guessing the council's decisions. And the best way to see if you have that mindset is to tell you a story. Now, as you know, those who form the council are the CEOs of the 7 most powerful corporations in the GCPS, and have supreme authority over every other corporation that makes up our corporate empire. However, this was not always the case. When it was first established, the council was more of an administrative body, occasionally settling disputes, setting tariffs for trade, or serving as a diplomatic corps. However, as humanity spread across the galaxy, keeping it unified was becoming much more difficult. Many of the corporations that manage planets, systems, or even subsectors of GCPS space were competent but self-interested, more than willing to let the galaxy burn, as long as their coffers kept expanding. Humanity was one civil war away from becoming divided into independent corporate fiefdoms. Fiefdoms that will be easily gobbled up by the dangers of this galaxy. Which is not ideal. Extinction wouldn't be very profitable. It was decided by the council that humanity needed to be unified under one authority, not only to survive, but also contend with and eventually surpass the other powers of this galaxy. And what better authority for it to be under than them? To accomplish this, they needed a fighting force completely under their control. The Marauders were a possible choice that had been used by many corporations at the time with great effect, but they were completely mercenary, more than willing to switch sides if the opponent had a better offer. No, if the council needed an absolutely loyal fighting force, it would need to be created. So the 7 pulled their resources together and founded Project Kaban. The aim of Project Kaban, originally anyway, was to create a human that could equal an orc commando in physical prowess, but was answerable only to the council, their personal army to maintain stability, put down the occasional rebellion, and keep the other corporations in line. And honestly, the initial modifications to the recruits went quite well, so well that the 7 decided to go ahead and initiate the next phase of their plan, destroying the trust between the Marauders and the corporations. The idea was simple: cause a small and contained Marauder rebellion, showing that they clearly can't be trusted, have the new Kaban soldiers clean it up, and slowly wean the corporations off the use of the Marauders, ensuring the council's new soldiers form the forefront of humanity's military. Of course, if you know your history, you know it did not go exactly to plan. You can read up on the specifics on your own, but essentially, the Marauders not only organized under one brutal warlord, but threatened to overrun all the human worlds in the galaxy. The goal of Project Kaban was quickly changed at that point. It moved up from simply creating soldiers capable of going toe-to-toe with a Marauder orc, to creating soldiers capable of beating those orcs several times over, a goal that needed to be completed before the Marauders could reach the GCPS core worlds. The best geneticists, biochemists, microbiologists, and neuroscientists, along with the most experienced tacticians and military thinkers, were recruited, not always willingly admittedly, and brought into Project Kaban. The scientists were given all the resources they needed, and no route of research was denied. And the council used emergency powers to procure any corporation's property they required, even if it required the removal of corporate leaders who were too stubborn to stand aside. Additionally, the council allowed those scientists to go straight to human testing, and to speed things along, they didn't waste time looking for willing volunteers, and sent shiploads of condemned criminals instead. There were a few voices of dissent about this violation of human rights, but those words quieted down when some of those dissenters also gave up their bodies for science. Humanity was in a race against time for its very survival, and thus morality had to stand aside for progress. All sorts of things were tried: epidermal grafts of hardened skin, stunted growth to allow combat in tighter confines, deep brain stimulation, even the adding of alien organs. no potentially workable theory was ignored. There were some hiccups and a few psychopathic rampages, but eventually, the true path to the super soldiers of tomorrow was discovered: nanotech. All enforcers start out as normal humans, usually chosen for their ability to kill without question, and their genetic propensity to follow orders. These recruits are then injected with anesthetic laced with nanomachines, and as they slumber, the nanites get to work, altering their DNA and preparing their bodies for the changes it will undergo. And quite a few number of changes are made. Red blood cells are expanded, tensile muscle strength is augmented, bone density is increased, even their nervous system is rewired, dampening pain receptors without loss of sensitivity. Hearing and sight also becomes much more acute, allowing them, for example, to walk through a pitch-black maze using the echoes of footsteps. Even their immune system is wiped out and replaced with nanites coursing through their body, coded to counteract almost all known pathogens and diseases in the galaxy. Although their bodies were changed quite significantly, the changes to their minds were even more profound. Their spatial processing and speed of thought was greatly increased, allowing them to factor in greater potential outcomes, judge distances over kilometers in a split second, and even dodge bullets by calculating their trajectories. The increased sensitivity in the receptors of the prefrontal cortex shifts the desires of the recruit, having them find pleasure in the physical and theoretical aspects of warfare, turning the recruits into savage soldiers who think of little outside of combat. But perhaps the most important change is an increased emphasis on the importance of allegiance and procedure, making them utterly loyal to the Council, willing to carry out the most brutal and ruthless orders without question. When these changes eventually begin to settle, they are then administered a new series of injections, giving the existing nanites a reserve of non-Newtonian fluid, which they weave into a subdermal layer, giving their bodies some protection against impacts and electrical discharge. When the recruits wake up weeks later, all these changes make them superhuman, almost indestructible, and ready for basic training. While training, the nanites keep adapting the recruits, making alterations that enhance the recruits' individual characteristics. For example, those with a genetic propensity for large muscle mass may find themselves a bit bulkier than their fellows, and those with above average endurance may find themselves able to run for days without rest. The nanites essentially make these recruits the best versions of themselves. The Kaban recruits blew past the scores of even veteran GCPS soldiers during training, and the Council believed that their super soldier program was a success, at least biologically. The Council knew that the recruits needed armor to match their might, and they knew that the GCPS did not have the tech to create the advanced armor they needed to help these recruits reach their max potential. To make the armor they needed to fight one alien race, the Council knew they had to make a deal with another. Through significant trade concessions with three Forge Father clans, the Council struck a deal to have their artificers craft armor that not only further enhances the already superhuman strength and speed of their recruits, but also provides significant protection against small arms fire, hostile environments, and even hard vacuum. And before you think it, at least for now there is no chance of the GCPS simply copying the design of this armor. The Forge Fathers have installed substantial anti-tampering devices into them, many of these devices causing both the armor and the engineer studying it to explode quite horrendously. Which means that whenever this armor needs any form of repair, they need to be returned to the Forge Fathers. And that is why on occasion, you might even see a Forge Father artificer among an Enforcer strike team during a mission. As for weapons, those at least was trusted to human corporations that have signed extensive contracts, ensuring these designs don't find themselves outside of super soldier use. The fine for breaking this contract being violent dissolution of the corporation. All laser weaponry handled by the super soldiers is produced by the Genling Corporation, and these are the most advanced and expensive laser weaponry developed by the GCPS. Their design allowing them to avoid the issues of overheating and focus fracture that would affect the lesser weaponry of regular GCPS soldiers. Non-laser weaponry is mostly supplied by Recola Industries, producing the thermal rifles, fusion guns, and incinerators for the recruits' more specialized roles, as well as providing the vibrational monomolecular edge wrist blades that is commonly seen among officers and assault teams. With the biology and technology taken care of, the Council considered Project Kaban a success, and chose to rename the new soldiers into the Enforcers. A little on the nose, I'll admit, but it definitely gets the message across. The newly minted Enforcers were then shipped off to McKinley Way Station to await their first assignment, But along the way, they were intercepted by a marauder Black Hulk, called so because these ships were made to look like random asteroids and had their systems powered down, having them remain undetected until they were close enough to attack. The Marauders had expected a singular battleship full of easy-to-take loot. What they got instead were enforcers entering their Black Hulk via insertion craft and absolutely slaughtering them. The enforcers' victory was total and was widely reported across the spheres, giving a much-needed morale boost that the citizens of the GCPS desperately needed. Although the enforcers won most of their engagements with the Marauders over the length of the war, they could only do so much. The enforcers were extremely hard to produce and extremely expensive, not to mention the fact that only a small percentage of recruits actually survived the transition to a superhuman. Thus, their numbers were limited, while the Marauders had hordes upon hordes of murderous savages at the ready. No matter how strong the enforcers were, they and the GCPS would eventually be overrun. In a last-ditch effort, the GCPS lured the vast majority of the Marauders to the system of Nihil Rex and caused its star to go supernova, saving the human race at the cost of tens of thousands of soldiers. Unfortunate, but a necessary sacrifice for the survival of the human race. At the end of the war, the enforcers were quickly established within the structure of the GCPS. They were to become the Council's steel-clad hand, used to strike at the foes of the GCPS, as well as a constant reminder to the other corporations of their fate, if they choose to go against the will of the Council. Now, as I said before, the enforcers are limited in number, so most sectors of GCPS space are patrolled by a single battalion. A battalion could encompass thousands of individual enforcers, but considering each sector of space represents light years of distance, with hundreds if not thousands of inhabited worlds, they tend to only be seen where they can cause the most impact. These battalions are further split into roving strike forces that go on wide-ranging sweeps through their assigned subsector, usually in the form of a mobile strike fleet that are able to respond to a threat in a moment's notice. And when a threat does arrive, the commander of the strike force sends out a strike team, comprised of the number of enforcers deemed necessary to get the job done. The core of any enforcer strike team is the squad, a team of enforcers armed with rifles and burst lasers. That is usually enough to take care of any issues that the Council deems worthy of attention. On occasion, they might be equipped for close-quarter combat. These assault squads descending from the sky and putting their wrist blades and pistols to use. Pathfinders are the eyes and ears of a strike team. These scouts confirming the presence of threats, gathering intelligence, as well as working as snipers, saboteurs, and fire controllers for heavy weapons teams. They may also be accompanied by a deployable offensive gun platform, or dog drone, which provides heavy support for Pathfinder squads, in addition to acting as a mobile resupply and communication station. Heavy support teams have access to a wide range of devastating firepower, using weaponry which is essentially smaller versions of guns and missiles seen on GCPS Marine vehicles. Breach and Eradicate teams specialize in the deployment of weaponry designed to crack armored vehicles and structures, and terminate their inhabitants. Defenders utilize assault shields and shotguns, and are best used for ship-to-ship boarding actions, and creating mobile choke points in close urban warfare. When the threat is particularly great, Enforcer veterans will come to the field wearing hulking suits of Peacekeeper armor, the advanced armor capable of withstanding a full-on blast from a tank shell, and capable of carrying weaponry that can shred infantry and light vehicles with ease. Although usually seen amongst GCPS Marines, Striders also see common use in Enforcer strike teams, the vehicles used primarily as infantry support platforms. However, a new variant has seen more use of late, the Ajax Siege Strider. Plated in reinforced armor and carrying the heavy aggressor shield, the Ajax Siege Strider can withstand an enormous amount of fire as it crosses the battlefield to crack fortifications with its Grav Ram Spear. The XSG-65 jet bike provides unparalleled low-altitude maneuverability, and the adaptable chassis can be equipped with weapons to deal with both armor or infantry. Many Pathfinders make use of the EP-54 Electric Mono, or E-Mic. The E-Mic's excellent range and low noise profile has facilitated numerous successful covert operations. The Accuser Interceptor is perfectly equipped for air-to-air combat and gaining air superiority over a battlefield, as well as making use of its hovering capabilities to offer static low-altitude support to ground troops. On the other hand, the Arbiter Interceptor swaps the Accuser burst lasers in favor of twin Polaris cannons, delivering a heavy punch against armored targets in swift ground-to-air strikes few enemies can counter. And leading all of these enforcers is the Commander, Now I should say that the command structure of an Enforcer strike team is rather flat. Every Enforcer is given a full briefing of their mission, and each is capable of taking over as commander if needed. But most commanders are still chosen from those with at least a few decades of experience. And near the commander you might see a forward observer. They are enforcers of particular talent, who are chosen by the council to receive specialized training and advanced physical augmentations. Outside the chain of command, they are officially embedded within Enforcer strike teams to give second opinions on an operation and offer insights and suggestions. Unofficially, they are spies for the council and report to them whenever the enforcers do anything that is against protocol or just considered odd. Now the enforcers aren't stupid, and know the forward observers are spies, and resent the fact that they aren't fully trusted. But the council took the lesson from the marauders to heart. The enforcers may be loyal now, but who knows how that might change in the future. Well, looking at the monitors, it looks like you passed. I won't have to, remove you, which is honestly great. The cleanup and paperwork would have taken hours. Anyway, why don't you take a month and make sure you have everything in order on your end? Trust me when I say, once you start working for the council, you won't have much time for anything like a personal life. Better to cut loose of those connections now, before they become a issue down the road.
Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this video on the Enforcers, the literal enforcers of the will of the councils, the rulers of the GCPS. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, comment, press the little bell so you know where I post, etc. So the YouTube gods know I exist, and hopefully more people know about my content, and hopefully more about the Warpath universe. If you really like it and you're inclined, please also consider giving a little money my way to my Patreon or my Ko-fi account. The extra money gives you a chance to work on these stories that I love. Anyway, thank you for listening and watching, and see you next time.